Welcome to Short Talks from the Hill, a podcast from the University of Arkansas. I'm John Lovett, Science Editor for the Arkansas Agricultural Experiment Station. Artificial intelligence is becoming more commonplace these days with tools like ChatGPT, Gemini, and Copilot, but there is a field of science called Bioinformatics that takes AI and machine learning to a whole new level. Joining me is Aranyak Goswami, a tenure-track assistant professor in bioinformatics computational biology with the University of Arkansas System Division of Agriculture. Dr. Goswami joined the Division of Agriculture last year after working in human-focused medical research at Yale and Stanford universities. His work is boosting research for the poultry science and animal science departments, as well as the Experiment Station Center for Agricultural Data Analytics. Dr. Goswami, how do you explain bioinformatics to someone who has never heard of it?
Bioinformatics is, in a very layman terms, using computer science to solve biological problems. And these biological problems can be therapeutic things like giving rise to better therapeutic strategies with the help of computational targets that you give. If you know about the Human Genome Project, which happened in the early 2000s, that was actually the birth of modern bioinformatics, because we have these sequences of genes, and to put it in a very layman's term, we have hundreds and thousands of genes from humans. Actually, 40,000 are the coding genes to be precise, and that sequence was done with the help of computational approaches. And that gave rise to this modern field of bioinformatics. Now, with the genetic tools in our hand, nowadays we can extrapolate this not only to humans, but to any kind of model system we want to do. And we can also say that there are a lot of agricultural, in plant sciences, animal models. You can extrapolate this. And if I put it in a very non-sciencey way, then it will be using computer science knowledge to solve biological problems, and also with the advent of AI, doing a lot of predictive analysis.
When we talked about it before, I kind of connected it to putting together a puzzle with millions of pieces. Do you put together puzzles in your free time?
What I like to do, like putting puzzles, I like to put puzzles or Lego kind of things when I was a kid. What I really like to keep me sharp is I play chess a lot. Chess puzzles I solve. Bioinformatics is a lot about pattern discovery, pattern finding, pattern matching, and solving chess puzzles in a kind of limited time gives you that mental agility, so that you can identify patterns, go for the sequences. So I was always an avid chess player. I just do this 1 or 2 rounds every day to keep me mentally agile. And that's very close to puzzle solving, like finding patterns and the best possible move within the shortest possible time. And then I sometimes take the help of computers to analyze that whether my move was the best or something.
When people hear about gene sequencing, is that people like you or a combination of different disciplines?
Yes. So when we talk about gene sequencing, there are 2 aspects of it. So the one aspect is, first of all, the experimental aspect. So if I just explain it in very simple terms, everybody knows about DNA, which is the basic genetic material of the cell. So experimental biologists basically extract the whole DNA from an individual. And this DNA, if you see, actually is the bearer of all the genes that we have in our hand. So there are different techniques, experimental techniques that people use to make this experimental genetic profiling. Now, our work as a bioinformatician comes as next. So when you have these different portions of genes present in different regions of the chromosome, our job is kind of piecing these things together in a computational way so that you can get the complete information. Now, having said that, that was the early days of bioinformatics. Now, we have moved a lot forward. So the initial goal was to map the genes. But now what we can do is that we can piece together information, also find out relationships between the genes, and something we used to call as dark matter when we were students is actually the non-coding elements of the gene. And recent research has shown that these non-coding elements are more interesting than the coding elements. Now, therefore, with the help of these computational tools, we can analyze and found relation between the gene regions and then interaction with the non-genetic or non-coding regions. That gives us a lot of perspective about how regulation of a gene happens, which means that whatever phenotypes that we see, a particular behavior is not only genetic, but there are also what is called phenotypic data, which is not just transmitted from one individual to the next in usual hereditary manner, but based upon the lifestyle things you are taking. For example, the chromosome can get like methylation patterns, which are specific to certain individuals, which gives us to the whole field of epigenetics. And this is something, the genomics aspect, which I'm an expert of, I'm talking about. And now with the advent of machine learning, there is a lot of predictive thing you can do. If you have a list of certain parameters, it can be genes, it can be any kind of information. So you can just put it in a computer, like I'm just putting in a very layman term, and then you can, based upon that, you can identify some signatures of the data, which are the predictive markers. And then you get new kinds of similar data. You can say that this data will be following that predictive behavior or not. And this has a great application. So not only in biology field, but if you see whatever, when you are typing your prompt on Apple, it comes from predictive text. And now it has become AI based. So all of our ChatGPT and something you see nowadays is based upon these prompts, as you see. And that's always because you are doing certain kind of prediction based on. This is a word-based prediction. Like you have one word and you have to predict what the next word would be in a probabilistic manner. And that's all what ChatGPT is doing, to be put in a very, very layman term.
So can you use that to predict a football game?
Yes, so the football game context will be interesting because the way I will give a very interesting concept. There's a very good movie called Moneyball. In that Moneyball, it was about baseball, and I really liked that when I watched the movie. So Billie Jean, or somebody who was the name of the coach, actually took a whole lot of data collection from people. So ideally, the baseball people or football people usually go for people like who has got a whole set of skills. Yeah, like baseball, there is a good pitching and good throwing. But that person, individual, I think for Boston Sox or something, he collected just those data and he formed a team with just this data analytics, making the prediction that you don't need a complete perspective. You need some good throwers and good pitchers. And trust me, in that movie, it is shown that based upon this thing, where he won 22 games in a row following this principle. And it's a record. None of the traditional sports coaches had a belief in him because he started with some losses, but then he had a phenomenal success rate with that. And that's all about making predictions with the data that he is having in hand. And I would recommend our audience, if you have not watched this movie, go and watch it. It's very interesting.
In your presentation at the AI and Ag Symposium, you talked about 3 projects that benefit Arkansas agriculture. Can you summarize those briefly?
The first project is actually I'm doing with the ENPL department here, Entomology and Plant Pathology, and with the Computer Science department. Dr. Fiona Goggin from ENPL and Dr. Khoa Lu from the Computer Science, very competent scientists. That particular project, we are looking into a plant which is called Arabidopsis thaliana. Agricultural people will know that. And we are trying to correlate something called the genomic data and the phenomic data. So what is genomic data? It is basically all the genetic data that we have, the information about the genes. But for the plants, we also collect other kinds of data. Like we take several measurements, we take photographs of, suppose, the leaf size, what kind of crop infestation has happened with pesticides and what actually changes in leaf diameter and this kind of thing. To our understanding, we have genetic data before. We have also this kind of phenomic data, but there is no integration of this genomic and phenomic data together. And we are for the first time trying to do of integrating this genomic data and phenomic data so we get a complete perspective and not only have good biological context, but also we will be able to make better set of precision plants in future. So that's one of the projects. The second one is working with swine genetics because I'm part of the animal science department. We have a lot of swine population. What we wanted to look about the microbiome of the swine. And for people, if you don't know microbiome, it is the beneficial microbes which is present in a particular animal or a human, it can be. And we are wanting to look at what is the growth of that microbiome within the swine population or something at a certain time period. And we are looking at their intestinal profiling because although we have the similar ages of swine with us, but the microbial health and microbial maturity across the same age group of swines may vary depending upon their microbial pool. So we are trying to address and analyze this microbial pool. And at the same time, what we are trying to do is also to develop machine learning models that if these are the good sets of bacteria that we have, then based upon this as a test set, if get what are the good amounts of bacteria that can be beneficial for that particular swine population. Another project that is actually directly under my lab, and I will mention just very briefly about that. People know that in poultry industry, specifically here, we are recently saw a great surge in price of eggs and everything because poultry went through a kind of an epidemic and it crossed billions of dollars of loss. So we are trying to study a particular pathogen called Enterococcus cecorum, which infects a poultry pathogen. We are using computational methods to find out what are the specific genes which makes that chicken sick because of that present in bacteria. And this work we are doing with Cobb Ventures, who is one of the biggest chicken poultry company over here. They are our stakeholders. We are trying to do this analysis to give them some candidates that they will be using as targets for non-vaccine based antibiotics.
You recently published an article about ChatGPT 5 and how the new AI era is changing science. Can you talk a little bit about that? And you mentioned there are some philosophical and scientific questions that come with it.
We can make major scientific advances. This is my take over civilization. Like over the next 100 years, we can go to Mars or cars that can fly in the air and solve major of our diseases. But the basic proponents of humans, like people envying each other, people wanting bad things for each other, these are human tendencies that has perceived for generations. So there is always an ethical perspective that we should take. And if you know, the whole field of deep learning and machine learning was brought about by Geoffrey Hinton, who basically started this machine learning, deep learning thing. And he's really a bit skeptic about the way AI is progressing, that it might control us. If AI becomes AGI, which is artificial general intelligence, AI systems might communicate with each other, and it is no longer under the humans as well. Having said that, with respect to my article that was published in a very leading journal back in India, what I would like to say as a summary, that whatever people may understand with fancy images or good prompts they're getting, right now the AI model is nothing more than just a predictive model. What is happening? Basically, it's a probability. You are giving them one word and they are trying to find out the next possible word. AI is not new. It was known with different names like machine learning, machine intelligence, and this is part of statistical learning. And it has progressed for decades. But right now, with the advent of very powerful computing machines, we are not making those mistakes. So we are getting meaningful interpretations. So that is why they're still not thinking in the way that we think. But the perils about it, that what people who are far more experienced than me and some of the messiahs in the field, they say AI is not like our brain. We are far more sophisticated. But they sometimes do a brain-inspired design that can perform like tasks that can overpower us. So there should be a word of caution regarding that. Otherwise, that AI brings a lot of good things as well, and we should exploit that, but we also see that the human value should not be gone.
Well, thank you, Dr. Goswami, for coming in today. We really appreciate your insights on AI. Appreciate you coming to work for the University of Arkansas.
And thanks everybody, John and the whole team who is helping me to put these things, because I, as a computational biologist, really want to take University of Arkansas to a global map in the field of AI. I want the university people from outside to know that we can do very good machine learning AI-based thing with respect to agriculture that benefits this community. And I'm very proud to do that. I'm very excited to build the next generation of students who will do good AI-based work, genomics-based works on agricultural problems.
Thank you very much. Short Talks from the Hill is available wherever you get your podcasts. For more information and additional podcasts, visit arkansasresearch.uark.edu, the home of science and research news at the University of Arkansas. Music for Short Talks from the Hill was written and performed by local musician Ben Harris.